Thanks to Mari for that report. And joining us now to discuss Trump's appearance yesterday at the National Prayer Breakfast is Anthony LaBruna. He's the executive director over at the American Principles Project. Anthony, thanks for joining. What were some of yesterday's highlights for you?
Well, I think for me, the biggest thing is seeing the president go back out on stage. And he's just such a character, right? Just so warm to the crowd. He starts with jokes. He kind of makes fun of the establishment media and says, a couple of years ago, I came out here and said, I just might not make it to heaven. I think he has this touch with the American people where he's genuine and, he's funny. And so coming out there, he cracks a joke. He says, I might not be perfect, but I've given a lot of money to perfect people. And so he's human. And I think that's what that day is all about. It's bringing unity back to the country. And he does such a good job with making it lighthearted and fun. But the big thing for me, the one thing I'm very excited about is his commitment to a national prayer day in a few months and inviting people, Christians and all faiths, walks of life, to come out and pray on the National Mall, practice our First Amendment. So we love to see that in our American leader and such a strong president who's made religion and faith a big part of both of his administrations.
Indeed, that was one of his talking points. He made the claim that no president has done more for promoting the importance of religion in society, linking that to the country's success, both with civility, with crime numbers down, but also with the economic successes that are potentially starting to churn. I want to get your view on what you expect from this day of prayer. Yesterday was the first time I have heard of it. What do you expect? What do you think will come of that?
Well, I think it's saying something. If you went in 2020, you went to a mass Christian service, a lot of those pews were empty. If you go now, and I go every Sunday with my wife, it doesn't matter if it's 9 o'clock, the 11 o'clock, the 6:30, 5:30. The pews are packed, and not with just families or older people. It's young people, young men. They're returning to church, which I think says a lot about what our marriage culture is going to look like, right? When you have men going back to church, finding their faith, which President Trump has made a huge issue in both of his elections during his campaigns. And so if these young men have answered the call, they're returning to church, they're looking to get married, they're looking to establish and start families. That's good for the country. That's good for everyday Americans, and it's good for the future. It's for our next generation. I think there's been a lack of making faith popular, especially, for Catholics. They've kind of taken a step back, right? And now you see this major resurgence within the church. APP went and we started this documentary called Fathers Wanted. And Terry spent the last couple of months interviewing people all across the country, all walks of life. And the one thing we found is that when you bring fathers back into the home, it's very important. But what's even more crucial is that a father comes back to the home with some type of faith aspect where he leads from a position of faith as head of the household. And that's so much more crucial than just having a dad back in the home. It's going to be good for the country. It's going to be good for everyday Americans and the next generation looking forward.
Yeah, you bring up some really interesting points. And, Trump said Bible sales broke a record this past year. I don't know where the stat comes from. Any other anecdotes you've observed in this resurgence of Trump actually alluded to people getting arrested for praying, and that was what he described as like the low point for religion. And in just a few years later, now it's come back in his description, bigger than ever. So what observations, anecdotes are you seeing on the ground?
Well, I think you look at, what this administration's done for people of faith, right? All aspects of faith. Doesn't matter, Jewish, Christian, Muslim. You have the right to practice. You have the right to pray, right? And you see this resurgence of Christianity. And first and foremost, that was led by Charlie Kirk, right? Charlie Kirk, after his passing, you see this resurgence on X and Instagram. You see these young people posting and embracing being a father, being a mother. But part of that aspect is going back to the church, going and being practicing Christians. And so it's funny or not, but Charlie's a real big reason that's happening. And, you can look at it the way President Trump has led this nation, how he's engaged with faith leaders across all walks of life. It's very important. You look at what he did when they tried to burn St. John's Church across from the White House. He goes out there, carries the Bible. He makes that a part of himself. And I do believe Bible sales are off the charts because you have so many people returning to the church. So I think it's a crucial victory for this administration. And what they've done with the White House by making the White House Faith Office, never done before. That's the first time by President Trump.
Yeah, these are all very interesting developments, and Trump himself crediting the successes of his administration in 1 year really to this resurgence in faith. He's linking it directly, and we'll be very interested to see what comes of this day of prayer in May. Really appreciate your insights today. Anthony LaBruna, good to see you.
Good to see you as well.